Maya felt her heart flutter as she adjusted her engagement ring under the cafe lights. At 27, the accountant had finally found someone who seemed to understand her completely. David worked as an architect in Lagos, and their connection had been instant when they met at a professional networking event 8 months ago. "You look worried," David said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. His smile was warm and reassuring, the same smile that had first caught her attention. "I'm just nervous about meeting your family this weekend," Maya admitted. "It's a big step." David's family lived in a compound in Ogun State, about 2 hours from the city. He had described them as traditional but welcoming, though Maya noticed he rarely spoke about his childhood or family history in detail. Over the following weeks, David proved to be everything Maya wanted in a partner. He was attentive, successful, and respected her career ambitions. Her parents were thrilled when he paid her bride price without negotiation, following all the proper customs. Her friends envied the lavish gifts and romantic gestures. "Girl, you've hit the jackpot," her colleague Rose told her during lunch. "David is husband material through and through." But Maya's aunt, who practiced traditional medicine, seemed less enthusiastic. During a family gathering, the older woman pulled Maya aside with concern in her eyes. "Child, have you met his family properly? Have you spent time in their home?" "Not yet, Auntie. But I will soon." "Why do you ask?" The aunt shook her head slowly. "Just be observant, my dear. Not everything that glitters is gold. Watch how they live, what they eat, when they move about. Trust your intuition." Maya dismissed her aunt's concerns as old-fashioned superstition. This was the 21st century, after all. She was an educated woman who didn't believe in village tales and folklore. The wedding ceremony was beautiful. Maya wore a stunning white gown while David looked handsome in his traditional attire. St. Michael's Cathedral was filled with well-wishers, music, and joy. But during the reception, Maya noticed something peculiar about David's family. They sat together in a tight cluster, rarely mingling with other guests. David's mother, Mrs. Chen, was an elegant woman in her 50s with sharp features and an intense gaze that made Maya feel exposed. His father and 2 older brothers shared the same unsettling intensity. They smiled politely but seemed to be constantly observing, calculating. "Your family seems very close," Maya commented to David as they danced. "We value family loyalty above everything," he replied. "You'll understand once you become part of us." Something about the way he said, "part of us," made Maya's skin prickle, but she pushed the feeling aside. These were her in-laws now. She needed to give them a chance. After the honeymoon in Zanzibar, David brought Maya to their new home, a modern 3-bedroom house in a gated estate. The house was beautiful with contemporary furnishings and large windows, but Maya immediately sensed something off about the atmosphere. Despite the tropical heat outside, the interior felt oddly cold. "My parents live just 2 streets away," David mentioned casually as they unpacked. "Mother wants to visit tomorrow to welcome you properly and share some family traditions." That first night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept hearing strange sounds, a rhythmic sliding noise that seemed to come from the walls themselves, accompanied by soft hissing that raised the hair on her arms. When she woke David, he barely opened his eyes. "Old plumbing system," he mumbled. "The developer warned us about noise. You'll get used to it." But Maya knew the sounds of old pipes. This was different. This sounded alive. The next morning, Mrs. Chan arrived wearing an expensive wrapper and carrying a basket. Her smile didn't reach her eyes as she embraced Maya. "Welcome to the Chen family, my daughter. We have important traditions that every new wife must learn to keep our bloodline blessed and protected." She handed Maya a handwritten list of rules that made no logical sense. Maya was to keep a bowl of fresh milk beside her bed each night. She must never leave the house after 9 p.m. She was forbidden from entering the storage room at the back of the house. And most importantly, she should never question family decisions or customs. "These rules seem unusual," Maya said carefully, scanning the list again. Mrs. Chen's eyes flashed with something predatory. They have kept our family prosperous for 5 generations. You are educated, yes, but some knowledge goes beyond universities. Follow these instructions for your own well-being. After her mother-in-law left, Maya tried to discuss the rules with David, but he became defensive. Just do what mother says. Our traditions work. Why question success? But Maya was a logical person who analyzed numbers and patterns for a living. Nothing about these rules made sense, and David's refusal to explain them only deepened her unease. If you're enjoying this supernatural tale, please like this video, share it with friends who love horror stories, and subscribe to our channel for more African storytelling. Hit the notification bell so you never miss our spine-chilling uploads. Comment below if you've ever experienced something unexplainable. Maya tried to settle into her new life, but the strange occurrences intensified. She followed most of the rules out of respect for David's family, though she couldn't understand their purpose. Each night, she dutifully placed a bowl of milk on her bedside table. Each morning, she found it completely empty, though she never touched it and never saw David drink it. The sounds in the house grew louder and more frequent. During daylight hours, everything seemed normal. David went to his architecture firm, and Maya worked from home, managing accounts for various clients. But as soon as darkness fell, the house transformed into something else entirely. Sliding sounds echoed through the walls. Hissing noises came from the ceiling. Sometimes Maya swore she heard something large moving through the ventilation system. She began staying awake at night, laptop open, trying to work through her fear while monitoring the sounds. "David, there's something in our walls," she insisted one evening. "We need to call an exterminator or contractor." He barely looked up from his phone. "You're being paranoid. It's just house sounds. Every building has them." But paranoia couldn't explain what happened the following Tuesday. Maya had finished work early and decided to take out the garbage around 10 p.m., breaking one of the rules. As she walked to the bins outside, she heard a loud, aggressive hissing coming from the direction of David's parents' house. Looking toward their compound, she saw enormous shadows moving behind the curtained windows, shapes far too large to be human. The shadows seemed to writhe and coil in patterns that made her think of serpents. Her rational mind rejected what her eyes were telling her, but her instincts screamed danger. She rushed back inside, heart hammering. That night, she had vivid nightmares of being pursued by giant snakes with human eyes, David's eyes. Desperate for answers, Maya began talking to neighbors during her morning walks. Most people were friendly but vague about the Chen family. However, an elderly woman named Mom Nkechi who sold fruits at the estate entrance proved more forthcoming. "You married into that family?" Mom Nkechi's face darkened when Maya mentioned her married name. "Ah, my sister, may God protect you." She pulled Maya away from other customers and lowered her voice. "People in this area have whispered about the Chens for years. Strange things happen around their compound. Pets go missing. People who visit them fall mysteriously ill. And at night." She paused, crossing herself. "At night, security guards refuse to patrol near their section. They say they see things that shouldn't exist." Another neighbor, a retired teacher, shared similar concerns. 3 families have moved away from houses near the Chens in the past decade. They never explained why, but I remember one woman telling me she couldn't sleep because of sounds that reminded her of the reptile house at the zoo. Maya's scientific mind wanted to dismiss these stories as gossip and superstition, but they aligned too perfectly with her own experiences. She decided to do research. At the state library, she searched through archived newspapers and found disturbing patterns. Over the past 30 years, several articles mentioned mysterious disappearances connected to the Chen family. Most notably, David's uncle's first wife had vanished without a trace 15 years ago. The case was never solved. Another article from 7 years ago reported the death of David's cousin's wife in what officials called a wildlife attack, though the incident occurred in their secured compound where no wild animals should have been present. Witnesses had reported seeing something massive and serpentine near the body, but these statements were dismissed as hysteria. Every generation, Women who married into the Chan family seemed to either disappear or die under suspicious circumstances. The pattern was too consistent to be coincidence. That evening, Maya confronted David with printed copies of the articles spread across their dining table. "I need you to explain this," she said firmly, pointing at the headlines. "I need the truth about your family." David's face went pale, then flushed with anger. "Who have you been talking to? What have you been doing behind my back? These are public records, David. Women in your family have been dying or disappearing for decades. I deserve to know what I've married into." He paced the room like a caged predator, his movements suddenly seeming less human than before. "You don't understand anything about my family. We have complications, but I would never let anything happen to you." "Then explain the complications. Explain the sounds. Explain why your mother's eyes sometimes glow in dim light. Explain why I'm forbidden from parts of my own house." David stopped pacing and stared at her with an expression that mixed desperation with something darker. "Some truths are dangerous, Maya. Please just follow the rules. Trust me. Everything will be fine if you just cooperate." But Maya was done cooperating blindly. That night, she pretended to sleep while remaining alert. Around 1 a.m., she felt David rise from the bed. Through barely open eyes, she watched him walk to their bedroom window. What she witnessed next would shatter her reality forever. In the moonlight streaming through the window, David's body began to change. His skin rippled and shifted. His limbs elongated and merged. His face, the face she had kissed goodnight, transformed into something reptilian and ancient. Within moments where her husband had stood, there was now a massive golden python with scales that gleamed like metal and eyes that retained David's distinct brown color. The creature looked directly at her, and she knew it was aware she was watching. Then it slithered out the window with fluid grace, disappearing into the night. Maya lay frozen in bed, every rational thought in her mind collapsing. Shapeshifters. Her husband was a shapeshifter. His entire family could transform into serpents. Everything the villagers had whispered about was true. As dawn approached, she heard the sliding sound return. The python slithered back through the window, and before her terrified eyes, transformed back into David. He climbed into bed beside her, sleeping peacefully as if he hadn't just been a 15-foot reptile. Maya didn't sleep for the rest of that night. She finally understood that she hadn't married a man. She had married into something ancient and inhuman, something that viewed her not as a wife but as prey. Maya spent the following day in a daze, unable to look at David without seeing scales rippling beneath his skin. Every touch made her flinch internally. She knew she had to be careful. If David realized she knew their secret, her life would be in immediate danger. That afternoon, Mrs. Chen visited unexpectedly. She studied Maya with those penetrating eyes that now made horrible sense. "You look troubled, daughter. Are you having bad dreams?" Something in her tone suggested she knew exactly what Maya had witnessed. Maya chose her words carefully. "Mrs. Chin, I need to understand what this family really is." The older woman's expression shifted from feigned concern to something more honest, a predatory satisfaction. "So you finally know. Good." The pretending was becoming tiresome. She sat down gracefully, her movements unnaturally fluid. "Yes, we transform. It's not a curse, as ignorant people claim. It's a gift passed down through our bloodline for centuries." "A gift?" Maya's voice shook. "That's why women keep disappearing from your family." Mrs. Chen's eyes flashed with irritation. "Let me tell you the true history, since you're so determined to know. Generations ago, our ancestor saved a powerful serpent deity from hunters who wanted its skin. In gratitude, the deity blessed our family with its essence, the ability to transform, enhanced strength, extended lifespans, and prosperity in all our endeavors." She stood and began pacing, her shadow seeming larger than it should be. "But every blessing requires balance. The deity demands tribute to maintain our power. Usually, we hunt animals in our other forms. But every few years. She paused, fixing Maya with an intense stare. Every few years, it requires something more significant. Someone close to the family. Someone whose life force can renew our connection to the deity. Maya's blood ran cold. Human sacrifice. Partnership, Mrs. Chan corrected with a twisted smile. The women who marry into our family have a choice. Accept the gift, join our hunts, participate in the rituals, and live long, powerful lives with us. Or resist. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Maya understood perfectly. The disappeared wives had been the ones who resisted. You cannot leave, Mrs. Chen continued, moving closer. Once you marry into this bloodline, you belong to us. The deity has already tasted your presence in this house. It knows your scent, your essence. Running would only make your end more painful. After Mrs. Chen left, Maya's mind raced through options. She couldn't go to the police. What would she say? Her husband was a snake? They'd think she was insane. She couldn't tell her family without putting them in danger. She was trapped in a supernatural nightmare with no obvious escape. That evening, David confronted her with cold anger. My mother told me about your conversation. Why couldn't you just accept things quietly? You want me to accept becoming part of murder rituals? Maya backed away from him. You're my wife now, David said, his voice taking on an inhuman quality. You will learn our ways, or you will suffer the consequences. There is no third option. He locked all the doors and took her phone, effectively making her a prisoner in what was supposed to be her home. That night, Maya was forced to witness the full horror of what she'd married into. Through the back window, she watched as David's entire family gathered in the garden. His parents, his brothers, and their wives, some who had clearly accepted the curse, all participated in a ritual under the full moon. One by one, they transformed into serpents of various sizes and patterns. David became his golden python. His father transformed into a massive black snake with red markings. His mother became a cobra with a hood that spread wide. The brothers became smaller but equally dangerous vipers. They brought out a goat, and what followed was a feeding frenzy that Maya couldn't fully process. The snakes moved together in a coordinated ritual that was both primitive and ceremonial. After feeding, they coiled around each other in patterns that seemed almost like worship, their scales catching the moonlight. The wives who had accepted the family's nature remained human but chanted in a language that hurt Maya's ears, something ancient and wrong. When it was over and they'd transformed back to human form, Mrs. Chen looked up at Maya's window. Soon, you will join us, daughter. The deity grows impatient for your choice. Maya realized she had perhaps a week before they would force her to participate or kill her for refusing. She needed a plan, and she needed it fast. She remembered her aunt's warnings and her grandmother's teachings about spiritual protection. Her grandmother had been known throughout their village for her knowledge of traditional medicine and spiritual warfare against dark forces. Salt and iron repel evil spirits, her grandmother used to say. And prayer is the strongest weapon against darkness. While the family went about their daily routines, Maya secretly gathered salt from the kitchen and found iron nails in the storage shed. She created a protective circle around her bed using the salt and placed the nails under her mattress and around her room. She also retrieved a blessed necklace her grandmother had given her years ago, a simple pendant with protective inscriptions that Mrs. Chan had insisted she remove and store away. Maya wore it hidden under her clothes. That night, for the first time in weeks, the hissing and sliding sounds stayed away from her room. She noticed David seemed uncomfortable around her the next morning, keeping his distance as if something invisible repelled him. The spiritual protection was working. It gave her hope, but she knew it was only a temporary solution. She needed to escape before the family's patience ran out. Maya knew she had only days, maybe hours, before the Chen family made their final move. The protective measures were holding them at bay, but she could sense their growing frustration. Mrs. Chen visited daily now, each time more insistent that Maya participate in the upcoming ritual. The new moon is in 3 days. the older woman stated during her latest visit. That is when the deity's power is strongest. You will join us then, willingly or not. Maya understood the threat perfectly. She had to escape before that night, or she would either become one of them or become their sacrifice. She remembered her cousin Emmanuel lived in Abuja and worked with the police force. If she could reach him, he might be able to protect her. But getting a message out was difficult with David monitoring her constantly and her phone confiscated. Maya began planning carefully. She noticed the garbage collector, a young man named Tund, came every Tuesday and Thursday morning. The next Tuesday, she wrapped a note in plastic, attached money, and dropped it in her bathroom trash. The note was simple. I am being held against my will by my husband's family. I am in danger. Please contact my parents at this number and tell them to call my cousin Emmanuel Okafor in Abuja. Tell him to come with police backup. This is not a joke. My life depends on this. Maya Chen. She did this for 2 collection days, hoping at least one message would get through. Meanwhile, she maintained her spiritual protections and played along with the family's expectations to avoid suspicion. She noticed patterns in the family's transformation schedule. They became serpents between midnight and dawn, hunting and performing their rituals during those hours. That would be her window of escape. When they were in snake form, they might be more focused on their ritual than on guarding her. David was becoming more aggressive as the new moon approached. His eyes would flash with that inhuman light when he looked at her, and his movements grew increasingly reptilian even in human form. You should feel honored, he told her one evening. The deity rarely takes interest in anyone outside our bloodline. Your spirit must be strong. If you accept the blessing, you could become more powerful than you ever imagined. I don't want power, Maya replied carefully. I want to understand. Can you show me what happens during the ritual? Help me prepare. David seemed pleased by her apparent cooperation. Mother will guide you. But know this, once you participate, there is no turning back. You will be bound to our family and the deity forever. That night, Maya finalized her escape plan. She had hidden a hammer and screwdriver in her closet. She would break the bedroom window during the family's transformation time. The rainy season was starting, which would help mask a scent and the sounds of her escape. She wrote one final message and managed to give it to Tund along with the last of her hidden cash. Thursday night, 1 a.m., main estate gate. Please help me. Thursday arrived with heavy rain clouds gathering. Maya felt the tension in the house increasing. David and his family were preparing for something significant. She could hear them gathering supplies and speaking in low, excited tones about the upcoming ritual. At dinner, Mrs. Chin made an announcement. Tomorrow night is the new moon. Maya will join us in honoring the deity. Everything has been prepared. Maya forced herself to nod, pretending acceptance while terror coursed through her veins. That night, Maya lay in bed fully dressed under her covers, wearing her grandmother's necklace and carrying her grandmother's old Bible in her pocket. She had tucked money and her ID into her clothes. She was as ready as she could be. At 11 p.m., the rain started, a heavy downpour that hammered on the roof. Perfect. At midnight, she heard the familiar sounds beginning. Sliding, hissing, the sounds of transformation echoing through the house. She waited until 1 a.m. to ensure they were fully changed and occupied with their rituals. With shaking hands, Maya used the hammer to break the window, muffling the sound with a pillow. The protective salt and iron had kept them away from her room, buying her precious time. She cleared the glass shards and climbed out into the rainy night. Her feet hit the muddy ground, and she ran. Behind her she heard a sharp hiss. They had detected her escape. Looking back, she saw the golden python that was David emerging from the house, moving with terrifying speed through the rain. Emmanuel! She screamed as she reached the estate gate, praying her message had gotten through. Suddenly, vehicle headlights blazed to life, flooding the area with light. Car doors slammed open. Maya! Over here! It was Emmanuel's voice along with several other men. Her cousin rushed toward her with 3 uniformed police officers as the golden python reached her position. But something miraculous happened. As the serpent entered the light from the police vehicles, it recoiled violently as if burned. It retreated rapidly into the darkness, hissing in frustration and rage. "Thank God you're safe," Emmanuel said, wrapping a rain jacket around his trembling cousin. "Your message sounded insane, but I could tell you were terrified." "What's going on?" The police officers were scanning the area with flashlights. "Ma'am, you reported being held captive by your husband's family. We need to investigate the property and take statements." Maya realized how impossible her real story would sound. They were holding me prisoner. They have strange practices. I have evidence of previous deaths connected to the family. Please, I just need to be somewhere safe first. As they drove away from the estate, Maya looked back and saw multiple pairs of glowing eyes watching from the Chen compound. David, his parents, his brothers, all in their serpent forms, unable to pursue with so many witnesses present. She knew this wasn't over. The family would never let her go easily. But for now, she had bought herself time and safety. For now, she had survived. Maya spent the next 3 months in protective custody while police investigated the Chen family. The investigation proved challenging. No physical evidence of transformation existed, and the family expertly maintained their facade of normalcy. The previous deaths and disappearances were ruled as cold cases with insufficient evidence to prosecute. But Maya didn't need legal justice. She needed spiritual freedom. Emmanuel took her to his church in Abuja, where the pastor, a man known for spiritual warfare, listened to her story without judgment. "What you describe is not uncommon in our country," Pastor Adewale said. "There are families with ancient connections to dark spirits, entities that grant power in exchange for sacrifice and loyalty. Breaking free requires more than physical distance." He explained that because Maya had lived in their house and been married to David, spiritual ties existed that the Chen family could use to track and influence her. The family deity might still claim rights over her. "We need to break the covenant spiritually," Pastor Adewale continued. "With prayer, fasting, and renunciation of any bonds created through your marriage." For 40 days, Maya underwent intensive spiritual cleansing. She fasted, prayed, and participated in deliverance sessions where she formally renounced any spiritual agreements made on her behalf during her wedding ceremony. The process was emotionally and physically exhausting, but she felt chains breaking with each session. During this time, she learned more about families like the Chens. Pastor Adewale showed her historical records of various bloodlines throughout Africa that had made similar pacts with serpent deities, water spirits, and other entities for prosperity and power. "The tragedy is that children born into these families don't choose this path," he explained. "They inherit the curse and often feel trapped by family loyalty and fear. Some, like David, may have genuine feelings for their spouses but are bound by forces stronger than personal desire." This helped Maya process her complex emotions about David. She had loved him, or at least loved who she thought he was. But the man she married had been willing to sacrifice her to maintain his family's dark legacy. Meanwhile, the Chen family didn't give up easily. Emmanuel's house experienced strange occurrences, scratching sounds in the walls, shadows that moved wrong, and one night, a massive snake was found coiled on their doorstep. Emmanuel reported each incident to the police, creating an official record of harassment. Maya's spiritual protections grew stronger as the deliverance process continued. She wore blessed oil, carried sacred objects her pastor had prayed over, and maintained salt barriers around her temporary home. The incidents decreased as her spiritual freedom increased. On the 40th day, Pastor Adewale performed a final ceremony, formally breaking any remaining spiritual ties to the Chen family and their deity. "You are free," he declared. "No covenant binds you to them. No spirit has claim over your life. You belong to yourself and to God alone." That night, Maya slept peacefully for the first time in months. No nightmares. No hissing sounds. No sense of being watched by inhuman eyes. She began rebuilding her life. She changed her name back to her maiden name through legal processes and moved to a different state entirely. She resumed her accounting career, found a new apartment, and slowly reconnected with friends she had isolated from during her marriage. The experience changed her fundamentally. She became an advocate for women in abusive situations, though she never publicly shared the supernatural aspects of her story. She volunteered at women's shelters and helped others escape dangerous marriages. 2 years later, Maya received an unexpected letter forwarded through her lawyer. It was from David. "Maya, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I wanted you to know that you were the first person who made me want to break free from my family's curse. Watching you fight for your life and freedom gave me courage I didn't know I had. I've left the family. I'm seeking help to break the curse. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I may not survive it, but I had to try. You showed me that there's another way to live. Thank you for that. I'm sorry for everything. David." Maya didn't respond to the letter, but she prayed for him. She hoped he would find the same freedom she had found, though she knew the path would be even harder for someone born into that darkness. 3 years after her escape, Maya met James, a kind civil engineer who was patient with her boundaries and trauma. She told him everything before they became serious, giving him the full, unbelievable truth about her past. To her surprise, he believed her. "My grandmother was a traditional healer," James said. "I grew up knowing that there's more to this world than what we can see. I'm just grateful you survived and that you trusted me enough to tell me the truth." Their relationship developed slowly, built on honesty and genuine care. When they eventually married, it was a simple ceremony in a church with full spiritual coverage and protection. Maya's pastor performed the wedding, and she felt only joy and peace. No cold eyes watching, no hidden agendas, no darkness lurking beneath the surface. She never forgot what happened with the Chen family, but she didn't let it define her entire life. She had survived something most people couldn't imagine, and that survival had made her stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Years later, she would tell her own children age-appropriate versions of her story, teaching them important lessons. Trust your instincts. Never ignore red flags, no matter how wonderful someone seems. Ask questions and do research before making life-changing commitments. And most importantly, know that no matter how trapped you feel, freedom is possible if you're willing to fight for it. Not all families are what they seem. Sometimes the most dangerous traps are wrapped in beautiful packages with loving smiles. But with courage, faith, and determination, you can break free from even the most ancient curses. Maya's story became a quiet legend among those who knew the truth, a testimony that even in the face of supernatural darkness, the human spirit can prevail. The end. Thank you for following Maya's terrifying journey. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please give it a thumbs up. Share this supernatural African horror tale with friends who love spine-chilling stories. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories about love, survival, and the supernatural. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. What did you think of Maya's escape? Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Check out our other supernatural horror stories in the playlist. And remember, always trust your instincts. Sometimes the signs are there, we just have to be brave enough to see them. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there. *** folded hand sparkles.